Hello, LinkedIn Live. I am super excited to have Scott Brinker with us for the second time. Scott, how are you, sir?
I am good. Wow, you brought me back a second time. I didn't completely fluff it up last time.
And not completely. No, you were amazing. And to anybody that knows Scott or to anybody that doesn't, you're such an inspiration to us in marketing. You make so many ideas come to fruition. You share visuals with us. I don't even think I need to give you much of an introduction, my friend. But we brought you in here to discuss a lot of AI, to discuss what you see in the market. You have so many founders reach out to you. I know you are aware of a lot of the technologies that a lot of us are not aware of. So, first of all, can you please introduce yourself to the ones that don't know you, and then we'll dive right into it.
All right. Well, sounds good. Hi, everyone. Scott Brinker. So I wear two hats. I'm the VP of Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot, where I've been for 8 years. My role at HubSpot is very much about all these amazing software companies out there that build integrations to the HubSpot platform, about 1,800 of them at this point. And then the other hat I wear is I've been writing this blog, Chief Martech, for goodness, 17 some odd years here, really about the entire intersection between the world of marketing and the world of technology that 17 years ago was a bit of an obscure topic. Today, like everyone knows, these fields are deeply entangled. You've got a whole bunch of people who are, really professionals who live with one foot in each of those worlds. And I guess the last thing would be, if ever you've seen that crazy slide with the billion little tiny microdot logos of Martech solutions around the world. I apologize. I am one of the people who
You're
that
responsible.
upon the
That is
world.
you.
So there's got to be a statute of limitations at some point, but we haven't hit it yet.
That's how I got to know you many, many years ago. And I think that's such a cool visual. Now, these days, you need really good eyesight and you need to really go into it. But, back in the day, it seemed a lot simpler. So let me just run in with the first question that we have here. With so many AI tools emerging, how do you help companies cut through the noise and focus on building the right content strategy first?
Wow. Okay. Well, I think noise is probably an understatement at this time. It's like just deafening thunder. I mean, the reality is I sort of look at this as three levels. All right. So there's a set of like foundational systems that you need to be able to execute marketing well. And frankly, AI hasn't changed that. In fact, if anything, all the cool stuff that people want to do with AI is actually increase the importance and the value of getting your infrastructure right. It doesn't have to be super sophisticated, but you need to have a really clear center of gravity for your customer data. That can be a CRM, that can be a CDP. Increasingly, we see people also using customer data warehouses that way. But you need to get that house in order. And that's not trivial when you're as you get to be a larger and larger company. Getting that data layer right, takes significant work. And then
I
the other
think
thing
actually that's
is,
one of the most complicated things. I think getting that data set, that's where most people don't do, and then they're surprised that the foundation's not there, so it's not growing the way they want. But this is so crucial and it's cumbersome. It takes a lot of time and effort, and you need to bring people in, and that is the biggest step. So please talk more about that because I think most of us don't have that wrapped up.
yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so again, the most straightforward way to do that is, and I'm a little bit more on the B2B side than the B2C side. So in B2B, in fact, we just published our State of MarTech report. We got data on what people were using as the center of their stack. And for B2B, it is primarily a CRM. Now I'm with HubSpot, so I'm going to say like HubSpot's a great CRM for that. But it might be Salesforce, it might be Zoho, it might be Dynamics, but I think having a CRM there that becomes your center of gravity for customer data is absolutely like, all right, that's your core foundation. I think from a marketer's perspective, the next thing around that is you really do need a system for orchestrating the marketing that you're doing with folks, particularly as you start to bring more and more automation, to your marketing operations. And again, this is what we've typically called marketing automation platforms. Again, HubSpot has one. Marketo's been a popular one. Salesforce, has their marketing cloud. And then, and there's a long tail of other choices. in the consumer world, we've started to generally refer to these things, instead of marketing automation, they're often now called customer engagement platforms. And so folks like, Braze and MoEngage, and some folks are a little bit more on the consumer side there, Klaviyo, I guess. So anyways, I think actually if you have those two components in marketing, like a really clear center of gravity for your customer data, and then a system you're going to use for like the orchestration of marketing operations, then you can start to go beyond that. And, I think you started out by talking about like content and AI, and that's a great place to start, because while there are lots of really interesting use cases for AI, new ones popping up every week at this point, probably the most established at this point are all the tools that people can use to help them in the production of content. And I specifically use the word help because sometimes I think when people talk about AI and content, they're like, well, I don't want just the machine just generating the content, and that's just going to be AI slop. And, and they're probably not wrong. That's not really where I see the best marketers using this technology. They're not turning over the creative to the AI. What they're doing is they have their creative ideas. Maybe they even brainstorm creative ideas, with an AI, but then they're using the variety of AI technologies of like, oh yeah, well, I want to get this video produced and I want these graphics in the video. And now that I've got this video, I want to break it up into these like social, like mini video posts, and things that they could always do. But it took a lot of time, and in some cases it took a little bit more like, oh, you had to have someone who's really skilled at using those video editing tools to be able to do that. And AI has just done a wonderful thing where for the marketer who is the creator at the core of this with the idea, they get empowered to be able to do so much of this themselves faster and cheaper. And so that's a real unlock. And then, right, you use your customer data system and you use your marketing automation platform to like, manage what you do with that in the world. And I don't know, I'll stop there, but it's a fun time.
I love it. So this is how I see AI, and I would love your opinion on it. AI is an amplifier. Okay. So if you're lazy, it's going to amplify lazy. If it's ish, it's going to amplify ish. If you're a creative soul and you can put things out there, AI is so powerful. But again, if you don't have the foundation, I see so many people out there that basically they just multiply or amplify stuff that shouldn't be there in the first place. How do you feel about that?
No, I think you're right. I'm not sure if I've seen it amplify the laziness, but I 100% agree with you on the creative souls. Like, I really do think this is the absolute best time for a creative person in marketing to be alive, because again, like, one of the things I've always admired about marketers is they're like idea generators. Like that's who they are, is like they wake up every morning and they've got like 100 ideas of, I wonder about this, or could I do this and this? And the same thing has been for like 95% or more of those ideas that would pop into their head. They're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. No, it's going to take, I'd have to get these, And so like, there's so much that we just had to throw out because it wouldn't have been practical to pursue it. I'm not saying that it's all now 100% practical, but I don't know. For a lot of this stuff, it feels like, oh, well, instead of just maybe only being able to try 5% of the ideas that we have in mind, like, my goodness, can we actually try 50% of it? And just that ability to try and iterate and experiment. I might be offending some marketers with what I'm about to say here. If I do, I
offended many people, so don't worry.
Okay, so my belief is marketers cannot know in advance what is actually going to work. I mean, there's just so many subtleties and nuances in how things resonate, so many variables. Really, the only way we know that something works is we experiment. We create it, we put it out in the world, we test it, and we see what resonates. And to be honest, a bunch of stuff won't resonate, and that's fine, because what we're in the business for is we find the things that do resonate. And then when we double down on those, we pour fuel on the fire. And to me, if you buy into that thesis, that really at the end of the day, marketing is experimentation, and it's got to assume that there's only a small subset that actually succeeds, then if you can find technologies and also the way you run your business or you run yourself, ways to like dramatically expand the volume of experimentation that you can lean into, then you will
like
basically
pizza,
just mathematically on the other side of this, you will find more winning things just simply being able to have more things out there to try.
I hope not everybody heard that, but the radio system just says pizza in the up floor kitchen. But
Excellent. Let's go.
let's
I'll
go
meet
for
you there.
pizza. I love that. I gotta have a shout out. I saw Ranjit and Tom are here, and they actually just brought on HubSpot in a big scale for their incredible business Skill Up Online. So huge shout out to you guys, and you guys chose a right technology. But I let my guys experiment. Like there's time for. I think you're muted, Scott.
Hey, sorry about that. We had
No worries. So
something other than
basically,
pizza showing up on my end, but
yeah, no, I was like, oh, I should have closed that. So basically, I give time for my guys to experiment. And I want to tell you about an experiment that I did. I've never been a Facebook fan. No offense to Facebook. I've never done anything on Facebook. LinkedIn is really like the place that, I share all my ideas. And I always have a team of designers, creators, copywriters. I took AI and I just went on Facebook. I literally have 1,000 followers. Over the last month, I had over 800,000 views on the AI content that I've created. And I've never had anything like that on Facebook, but the AI helped me to bring my ideas to life. And there's such a hunger for AI information that 800,000 people consume that information. So experiment, use your personal things to experiment. You never know what works. And I think that's so brilliant. But can you tell us what you've learned that have worked? So we need a database. We need a CRM like HubSpot. What else have you seen that really works for marketers?
Yeah, well, okay. So, right, you have the data layer, you have an orchestration layer. I think beyond that, then it starts to get into more of the specifics of the kind of business you're running. The things with AI that I find are really fascinating is certainly in this like content creation space. It's incredible. I feel like a kid in a candy store with this. As anybody who's seen that like crazy landscape of all the MarTech logos, I might know a lot about MarTech, but I clearly know crap about design. I am not a designer. That's the testament to it. But boy, using some of these tools, and again, it's not always even for me to do something that's final production quality. It's even for me to be able to like play around with ideas and conceptualize them and like bring them to life enough that, okay, even if I take it to like 90%, and I need a professional designer to then like take it the last 10%. That's still, it just unlocks so much. I'd say the other area where I get really interested is it's basically the other end of that loop. So we create things, we put it out into the world engage with it. We then get data. And this is, again, arguably the biggest gift to marketers, in the digital world had been like, wow, we actually get to see measurable data on so many of the different ways in which people engage with us. But the truth is, I mean, marketers aren't necessarily data scientists or even data analysts. Like that's not the skill set that, most tend to lean into and shouldn't have to. So it's been that same sort of challenge we mentioned earlier where like, okay, they have a bunch of questions about like, all right, now that you've got all this data and we have other data elsewhere and how would we relate these and what were the insights from that? That when they'd have those questions, basically like, okay, well, I guess I need to file a ticket. At least if you're an organization of any size, you're like, yeah, I'm going to file a ticket and an analyst will get to that maybe 3 weeks from now or something, and for so many questions, like marketers would just like self-censor. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to wait 3 weeks for this. I didn't care that much, which is a shame because every single one of those questions becomes a thread that we can tug on. And just like the experiments, on the creation side, it's not that all the threads are going to reveal gold, but there's a certain percentage that always do reveal gold. And the more of those threads you can tug on, the more gold you're ultimately going to find. And so there's this whole other class of, AI technology that I think is a real gift to marketers, which is letting them self-serve more and more data analysis. I'm not saying we can do everything. There are still definitely more sophisticated things you want an analyst, you want a data scientist for. but there's a lot more you can self-serve, and it feels like that technology is advancing very, very rapidly as well too, where if I can just ask the question of like, hey, what happened with this group and this, and not just with structured data too, but one of the great things about these LLMs is they're so good at interpreting unstructured data. You can feed unstructured, like what if I've got these emails, I've got a series of call transcripts, people who responded to this campaign and came into our call center, we've got this call transcripts. I have some questions. What were common themes? What were the common reactions to things? This is stuff that before, if a marketer wanted to know that, they'd be like, all right, either I just won't be able to get that, or it's going to take a long time before someone way down in the data department gets it to me. Now they're like, oh yeah, now we can answer that question in 5 minutes. What's your next question? Do you want to dive deeper? Do you want to relate this to some other data?
Do you want me to show you a visual? Yeah. So I love that. I think we all as marketers these days use AI for creating stuff. We all do that, okay? But what I think you nailed on the head is what we need to do more is better decision making using AI. Okay, that's what I think most of us don't do. And how do you make better decisions using AI? Can you give us some examples?
I mean, it is incredible to be able to feed things into Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini. Like I'll give you a real example because I'm going to do this in a presentation for a HubSpot conference next month. So I run a partnership team essentially around these ISVs, and we're increasingly doing more and more joint go-to-market efforts with our partners, including some field events. Like, oh, okay, you have a set of target customers and prospects. We have a set of target customers and prospects in this city around this topic. Let's put together an event that we can bring people together and basically help everyone move forward. Okay, but HubSpot hasn't done this a lot. Actually, a lot of our partners have even done that a lot. This whole thing of doing these joint partner field events. In many ways, it's a new motion. Okay, well, listen, we can feed into Claude, okay, here's everything you need to know about these partners, then joint value propositions get generated there. Here's the, structure of how we can do things for events, what, a budget is for this. Oh, here, let's feed in, the framework for story brand. How should we think about story brand for a joint event? And then just start asking a question. So okay, well, what would you develop for an event idea? Okay, you get one. You're like, that's great. But that's just the beginning. Everyone knows once you've got the idea for the event, the real work is okay, well, how do you get people here? Well, can you help me start to generate the emails we would invite to prospects? Okay, we can do that. Well, all right, I actually need our sales reps to be able to invite their prospects, and they're busy people. And so trying to get them hooked on helping us with this, can you help me with some Slack messages I can then use to engage these reps? Oh, let me upload to you the spreadsheet, of okay, the overlaps of potential accounts. I could go on and on with this. This is stuff that, again, to basically put it in the hands of now any partner manager, who can have incredible skills, in partner management, but all the nuances around creating these field events, right? They're not a event marketer, but oh my goodness, leaning in on things like Claude with all of that data fed into it, unstructured and structured. It literally in 10 or 15 minutes, they can have a whole plan together, all the pieces they need to execute on it. It's a wonderful time.
It's amazing. I cannot imagine my life without AI these days, Scott. I truly cannot. I will not be able to do even not 20% of my workload without AI. But there are some pitfalls, I think, too. And if you can share what you think are pitfalls with, marketers and AI, where do we go wrong?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, so it is true that it is. I was going to say it's only as good as the data you feed into it, but it's actually two things. It's only as good as the data you feed into it. It's also, frankly, I won't say only as good, but how good the outcome is very much a function of how well you ask questions. And I think, one of the most common, scenarios you see with people who experiment with this stuff and they're like, I don't get what the big deal is, is they treat it almost like they treated Google, which is oh, I'm just going to ask a question and see what it comes back. And all right, yeah, that's fine, versus the people who really get into this, what they do is they're like, oh, I'm going to give you all these docs. I'm going to describe, like, I want you to pretend that you're this person and I'm having this issue with my boss and they're looking for this from me. And so keep that in mind. I want to make sure we optimize for that, and you just like throw all this stuff into it. And then you ask the question, oh my God, like it is an absolute night and day difference. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people experiment with this and just, for whatever reason, I'm like avoided prompts. And I think part of it is the name prompt engineering. In retrospect, was I said the wrong word there. It's an unfortunate name. That's the word. That's the adjective I was looking for, because like people, again, like engineering just sounds complicated. It sounds hard, And
It does.
not engineering. It's like, oh, just what is anything that I think is relevant to this? And if I was just trying to describe this to someone of like, hey, listen, you should probably keep this in mind, and whatever quirky stuff. In fact, that's the greatest thing about it, is some of the more quirky circumstances that you're like, this is really specific to me in the exact situation I'm in. You feed that in, it makes a tremendous difference in what you get on the other side.
Another thing that makes a tremendous difference for me is, you're absolutely right, asking the right questions, but having the AI ask you questions. I always ask the AI, give me at least 10 questions that will make this output better. What do you need to know about me? And this is something that is hilarious to me. In AI world today, mediocre is free. Okay. And we've never had a world where mediocre is free, but now it is. But I don't want to be mediocre. And that's what I meant about amplifying laziness. Like, it's not like instant, it's not a microwave. Okay. Like, it's not like this shortened time. It's to get better results in a short time, but you got to bring in, you got to bring in your special sauce. If the AI doesn't know what makes you unique, Scott Brinker, then you'll sound like somebody else, and you want to sound like Scott Brinker. And when I talked about amplifying laziness, is I get so much stuff and I see so much stuff on LinkedIn, and it all sounds the same. Like, I sometimes somebody sends me something and I was like, that is so ChatGPT, and then they ChatGPT something back to me with the M dashes and all the weird spacing. And I'm like, just give me a break. Like, this is not a microwave. Like, put your soul into it and you'll get something back that is super powerful. And do you know the story about the Patagonian toothfish?
I don't know. This sounds like something I should, but all right, carry on. I'm intrigued already.
We were talking about the prompt engineering, what an awful name that is. So there used to be a fish. It was a delicious fish called the Patagonian toothfish. Okay. And the Patagonian toothfish was not selling because who the heck wants to eat a toothfish, right? And then a brilliant marketer, I should have remembered their name, but they decided to call it the Chilean sea bass. And it became the #1 selling fish. So prompt engineering is like made, I love geeks, but made by geeks for geeks, and we all use it now. So I so completely agree with you. We should name it something else, but I love that. And it's not prompting, it's talking. And if you're good at talking and asking questions, you're good with AI. And the last thing before I bring it back to you, I believe women with experience are the best prompters because they give context, they tell stories, and when you do that, you get amazing, amazing results. Now, one thing I got to ask you, something that happens in my companies too. Sometimes I look at the tech stack and I look at all these third parties, and everybody buys this for 50, this for 100. It all adds up, and I have then 100 tools that actually cost me a whole lot of money. Where do you see that with marketers? I think we are actually using too many tools, even though you build a toolbox. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So because one of the things I'm known for is like curating that crazy graphic of all the tools that are out there. I think people sort of make the assumption that I'm like, the more tools, the better. Like, yes, please. If you've got 100 tools, get 200 tools. You got 200 tools, get 400 tools. And I'm definitely not taken from that point of view. To me, the way I've come to think about it over the years is basically a variation of Occam's razor. Other things being equal, the simplest explanation is often correct or best. I look at it that way from the tech stack, that other things being equal, the simplest tech stack is going to be the best for you. The caveat that is always embedded in Occam's razor and my abuse of the concept is that that doesn't mean like you can't add other tools. It's just like you're adding another tool because you need it to be able to do something that you can't do with your current tool set. And I mean, part of the nature of marketing, and today more than ever, is it is always so fluid, right? I mean, the state of, I mean, both technology, not just technology for marketers, but really more importantly, technology for consumers and customers, and where are they going and what are they engaging with, right? I mean, that's constantly changing. And because marketers, our mission is to find and engage those audiences, we have to follow where they go. There's also the issue of tactics. You know, just the nature of a lot of marketing is, you know, we develop tactics that work, and then it's a little bit of the tragedy of the commons. Everybody jumps on those tactics, overdoes them, and those tactics just stop working. And so marketers have to go and they have to, all right, well, we have to invent a new tactic. We have to find a new way to do it. And so you always have these marketers that, whether it's they're trying to keep up with changes in technology for how their customers or consumers, you know, are going to be found and engaged, or just because, like, yeah, the playbook they've had, you know, over time, it's, you know, efficacy starts to degrade and they need to come up with new ways. I think that's why you always have marketers who are willing to experiment with tools on the edge that are beyond their current core tech stack, is because, yeah, they need to experiment. They need to try things. And I think it's just, you want to have that healthy balance of recognizing the difference between what is your core tech stack, and you want to keep it as simple and streamlined as possible, while also giving yourself permission, you know, on the edge to, like, yeah, let's experiment with some of these new things. And again, like all other experiments, a number of them just aren't going to be, you know, useful enough to justify. So we try it, we get rid of it, and move on. There always are some that are, and you're like, oh, wow, that's really great. And then you add in the tech stack, and maybe at some point in time that capability gets incorporated in your core platforms, and you no longer need a point solution for it. So okay, do the spring cleaning, you know, and move on. But I think having that willingness to adopt a tool, if it's genuinely going to provide, you know, some novel capability to you that you don't have, great. Otherwise, simplify.
I love it. Gianna just let us know that it's Lee Luntz. Thank you so much. I should have known that, but you're amazing. And I got to share this with you. Our COO has this like list of 100 tools. She's incredible. And every month we send it to all the teams, and they need to mark like if they use it daily, weekly, monthly, or not at all. Now I am full abundant mode. You want to try a tool? Let's try a tool. You want to do that? Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do that. But at times I then see that there's so many things that we actually don't pay for, don't use, you know. And this is important to do this spring cleaning. This was so fast. We've passed 30 minutes, but I want to open this up for questions. So let's see. There's a question from Rexilet. Please share about AI hallucinations and how to avoid them when creating content using AI. I'll give it the first shot, and you'll think about it. It's all about the data. Okay, if you give the right data and if you put the right guardrails and you educate the AI of exactly what you want to do, you cut those hallucinations. Now it's always a part, and also you got to read what you do before you post it, right? But if you really guardrail your data and clean it up and make sure that the AI kind of trains on it, it cuts a lot of it. But I would love to hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, all right, so again, this might be a controversial statement, but I feel like one of the things that was unfairly put on content marketers over this past 10 years was, you know, because there was such demand to like build content out for the long tail and of all this stuff, is they sort of got pushed in a mode of like, oh, you got to find a bunch of adjacent content that you actually aren't an expert at. In fact, actually nobody at our company is an expert at, but you have to go out, figure out that content and figure out how we relate to it and plug in, you know. And again, those tactics, not saying that they haven't worked for folks, but it was always a little bit of an unfair thing because, you know, at the end of the day, you got people who are not domain experts in an area. And I think that is still problematic with AI. And if anything, some of the AI here has almost created the illusion that like, oh, okay, well, I don't really know this topic, but I can ask AI and AI is going to tell me what, you know, all the right answers are there. And if you don't have the domain expertise, or you don't have someone in your company who's a domain expertise, it's really hard to validate, is that legit? Is it a hallucination? And even, I mean, I always recommend going through to the sources. You know, most of these AIs will provide the sources. But let's stop for a moment and recognize, what are those sources? Well, they're things published on the internet, and apparently not everything published on the internet is true. It came as a terrible shock to me recently. And so I think the thing that gets me excited about content and AI is not trying to like have marketers like push further and further outside of their domains of expertise. To me, it's like saying, oh, within your domain of expertise, the depth and quality of things that you can create that are incredibly unique. You now have a set of superpowers for there, and you have then the benefit that whether it's you or someone else at your company, you have the domain expertise to help validate, like, okay, we're not, going off the grid of reality here. So
AI is not a magic stick, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely not. It's incredible and amazing, but you got to stick to your lane. And if you do that, you'll create amazing things. But if you try to sound like someone you're not, then hallucinations would happen and you won't know it because you don't know your subject matter. I love your answer. We have another question here. How do you see the integration of AI with CRM and marketing automation platforms evolving in the next year or two? I will give that directly to you, sir.
Awesome. Well, it's evolving very, very quickly. That's for sure. So certainly like HubSpot, boy, it was already like a year ago, like we had started to embed these AI capabilities natively inside our product. So with our Copilot, we've got these agents that got released. We're actually looking to open that up, so stay tuned on that and how that relates to the ecosystem, all the amazing app partners we have. But I think it's not, it's important to say, like, because I don't want to come across as just like plugging HubSpot on this. It's not just HubSpot. It's the entire wave here of AI really seems to have recognized that integration between data and tools, you've got all this stuff with the model context protocol from Anthropic. Maybe I'm getting a little nerdy here, but
I love that. Please get a little nerdy with us.
Okay, because it's funny, if you surveyed marketers for the past decade or so about like what their biggest problems were with MarTech, almost always one of the number one or number two answers was integration. Because it's just like, for all this incredible set of these technologies out here, for a very long time, companies did not prioritize figuring out how to integrate them together. And there weren't a lot of standards, for how they should integrate together. And so kind of every platform, this is part of what I did at HubSpot. It's like, all right, every platform, it has to really go out there and win partner by partner these integrations and build them. And again, like, I think the industry made a lot of progress, but it was clearly an uphill climb. Versus I feel like with the way everyone's talking about AI and recognizing that agents are going to have to interact with other agents and other tools and other data sets, it's sort of everyone's treating integration as actually a first-class requirement in how this is going to evolve. And so, while I would say it is still very early and very fluid, I have never been more excited about the fact that I think MarTech in the AI era is going to be orders of magnitude more integrated than it ever was in the past. So come back to me in a year and we'll see how close we are on that one.
I could not agree with you more. And it's one of the most exciting things that, it's so much better right now. It used to be so difficult to integrate systems. And even now, even with two systems that don't talk to one another, you can build in Selenium, for instance. You can build a Selenium bot that would actually do the work that you need to do between two systems. And I know integrations are coming, don't get me wrong, but AI made things so much easier for marketers like me, that I have an amazing tech team, but I'm not a coder. Okay, that's not my profession. So I love that. I think we have another question here. What are the biggest challenges in maintaining the accuracy and relevance of the knowledge base? Great question.
Oh yeah, that is a phenomenal question, because the earlier thing of like avoiding hallucinations, even when you're a domain, like, you have all these advancements now and things like customer service bots and whatnot, where you can point them at your knowledge base, and they're getting really good, at being able to do these resolutions for you. But this question gets right to the heart. Okay, well, still the success of that is incredibly dependent on the accuracy of what's in your knowledge base. And I think, it's funny. So people talk a lot about, as we should be, right? The thing of like, how do jobs change? in AI, because there's a bunch of this stuff that now, like, we're letting AI do that used to take hours and hours of people's time, no longer takes hours and hours of people's time. And, there are clearly some companies who look at that and they're like, great, so we just don't need as many people. And not just because I'm pro-humanist, I just actually think that's the wrong decision to make. I think what you want to do is you want to take that talent and you want to take those hours and you want to now apply it against a whole bunch of other stuff that, quite frankly, you hadn't gotten to and is really important to get to. And I think one of them is knowledge bases. I mean, certainly, pretty much. I was going to say tech companies, but I've even had the case I'm trying to solve a problem with my refrigerator and trying to get answers, from the knowledge base of, the manufacturer. It's like, you guys haven't done a really good job maintaining this, have you? I'll let the brand go unnamed, unshamed at the moment. And so I think that's a great thing where okay, ask the question of how much work are you doing in maintaining your knowledge base? And that has sort of two things. So first of all, it's the stuff that people put in, and it's worth some people put really lightweight stuff in. Some people invest a lot more and let's give really rich, answers to this. Some of the cool stuff, one of the things HubSpot does now is when you get tickets coming in and support people resolve those tickets, there's an AI option to and can we now automatically add this to the knowledge base? I love that. So you can definitely keep thinking about how stuff that gets added, but you also need to be thinking on the other side. How do I remove things? How do I remove things that were answers that were perfectly valid 7 years ago? Not the answer you want to be giving anyone today. And at this point in time, that still actually requires human oversight and human curation. So yeah, leveraging that data in all these cool AI use cases is hopefully justification to be able to say let's invest some time and talent in making sure that data is really good.
I love what you said. So first of all, AI, and I've seen companies, even companies that hired us to do things, that they want to bring AI to replace people. AI is here to empower people. Okay. And if you remove things from those people that they're maybe not good at, don't want to do, and then allow them to do other things, it is where I think the power of AI really lies. And not, we got to think bigger. Okay. It's not all about cutting. It's about how we utilize this amazing human treasure that we have in a better way. I'm sitting right now in a 120-year-old electric company. Okay. And we are now helping them free their people up. And the CEO, your incredible guy, Eric, this is his main point. I don't want to lose anybody. I just want them to have more time to focus on what they're good at and how they can grow my business. And it's not just in marketing. There's room for AI everywhere, but it's how you look at it. We have another question here. As a newer company just getting started with HubSpot, what's your advice on using the platform and its ecosystem to really scale things like automation and customer engagement without needing a huge team? Great question, Tom.
Yeah. Well, I would probably need to know more specifically about your business and what you're looking to do to be able to give you a.
If it's okay, I know both of you. Can I connect you both?
Feel free to reach out to me. But I think this has always been. There are a lot of great platforms out there on the planet. I would say every platform gets to choose where does it want to emphasize its strengths. And I would just say HubSpot, we have chosen as the strengths that we focus on is fast and easy, and that has another side. You might not be able to do all there are other platforms. You can go completely nuts and crazy with everything you do, but you're going to need a much larger team and it's going to be more expensive, and for some people that's what they want, but for HubSpot, the first and foremost is we're looking for folks who, need a platform that, okay, it's not going to take a huge team of people to be able to get a tremendous amount of value out of it. And so I think then just the key comes down to, for your business, okay, well, where are the places for the greatest automation leverage? Is it, looking at the end-to-end buyer's journey? Where are the places that you want to have these contacts? How do you want to handle the process of as people start to develop relationships with your company. You've got either the right, nurturing that's happening to them from the marketing side, or you're feeding the right signals to your sales organization so that they can engage with them the right way, or how are you handling things on the customer success side? I just love being able to look at the entire, in fact, buyer's journey is probably the wrong term. It's really the customer life cycle. It's the whole thing from like how they first find about you, but even as they're a customer of yours, just sort of how do you want that relationship to evolve? And then being able to say like, okay, these are things that we can automate. And then from an ecosystem perspective, yeah, I always like, I obviously by the nature of what I do at HubSpot, a big fan of the ecosystem. But I also go back to that Occam's razor comment, I made earlier, which is, listen, particularly if you're just getting started, I'd say like, get the foundation, in place. Really, again, look at that, customer lifecycle journey, and all the capabilities you have in HubSpot that you can actually get configured to support that. And then once you've got that in place, then you might already have some ideas of like, wow, this is thing I'd, really love to be able to do. Like, and again, like, I don't know, like, depending on what your business is. Let's say your business has like a reseller network or distributors or partners or something like that. Okay, you can certainly do those things inside HubSpot, but there's a whole category of products called partner relationship management systems, PRMs, and pretty much all of the best ones now integrate deeply with HubSpot, and so you might be like, okay, now that I've got my core direct channel in place here, oh, I want to add this capability for, partner management, channel management. Great, find the PRM that you like best and have it integrated. Or another example is, so as more and more sales teams are using HubSpot, to drive their sales organization, one of the things HubSpot doesn't do is we don't have like like sales comp management system. That's not one of the core things we do. But we have this amazing partner, QuotaPath, that has built literally one of the world's best, sales comp management tools, beautiful integration into HubSpot. And so you're like, okay, yeah, we're at the scale where we actually want to not just be doing this on spreadsheets. We want to actually have, this performance management system, because then the way they integrate it to HubSpot is it's not just about calculating commissions. It does this cool stuff where like reps, when they're working on deals, they actually get to see dynamically like the impact it can have on their comp, and this gets them incentivized. I don't know. You get me talking about HubSpot ecosystem. I probably got about like 20
I can
hours.
feel your enthusiasm, and it's infectious and it's beautiful. And to respect your time, my friend, I would keep you here all day. But to respect your time, there's another thing, loving the conversation, so many useful takeaways. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Scott Brinker, you're a champion. You're so positive. Your enthusiasm is infectious. You come in with so much knowledge. I love having you on, truly, and I'm going to try to have you on again. Now, can you tell us in the last 3 minutes, maybe what's your plans for the future? What is Scott Brinker looking forward to? And if anybody wants to reach out to you or see what you do, how they can do that?
Yeah, wow, what am I looking forward to? I mean, I'm kind of on the same journey with everyone else, is, what's happening here with AI. It is such an amazing opportunity for us to reinvent the field of marketing and how it works. Like, we didn't get a chance to go into this today because it's a little bit earlier, but maybe when we have our next chat, we've talked a lot about AI on the seller side and all the things that unlocks. You're starting to see the emergence of how AI is increasingly going to be used on the buyer side. And now there's a future where the interplays between seller AI and buyer AI changes all of the dynamics, of how business works. And everyone who's like tuned in on this right now, we are the generation that is going to be rewriting the playbooks of marketing and the strategies of marketing of how this works. And well, I can't say I have very clear ideas of exactly what that's going to look like at this point. I am here in the front row seat, like, all right, yeah, let's bring this on. Let's figure this out. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Where you can reach me, I guess LinkedIn, SJ Brinker. My blog is Chief Martech, the way it's spelled here without the H at the end, .com. And if you're curious about what I do on the HubSpot side, if you go to the HubSpot app marketplace, that's the wonderful set of 1,800 partners I get the privilege to work with every day.
Scott, Thank you. You're awesome and you're amazing. We have some more questions that we can get into because I'm sure you got some very, very important places to go. But this was such a pleasure. And for somebody that's building AI for Martech, for somebody that's in the field, having you share this is it's just I I believe more in what I do with your enthusiasm. And I'll finish with this. I was blessed to be around Anthony Robbins, not the speaker, but the guy from NVIDIA that just retired.
Oh,
And
okay,
he
yeah.
told me something that resonates with me every day. None of us understand how powerful AI is. None of us. Okay? Not me, not you, not him, not his CEO in NVIDIA. And AI is going to change everything. So stay tuned and keep your hands in, learn, understand. I love the fact that we're pioneers in this. There's no experts in AI, but there are pioneers, and you, my friend, are one. So thank you so much for joining us, Scott.
Thanks so much. It was a delight to chat with you as always.
Well, goodbye, my friend. Bye, everybody.